What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and the reason I decided to make this video is I've been making a bunch of videos about 9/9s lately, and one of the things I've mentioned where I think the risk is there if more 9/9s are legitimately being issued. That's still maybe a little bit up in the air. I've been monitoring them and seeing when those vintage 9/9s come out. But if there are more 9/9s that are coming up, my concern was that those books are going to come up immediately for sale when they get graded. And so the problem there is that they don't hold back in people's collections, that kind of thing. They come up for sale and then they keep coming up for sale. And that's what can impact values. And we have got a couple big auctions coming up, and 3 of the 9/9s that I very recently identified already coming up for sale. So let's get into this. Let's talk about those, see where they might sell. And hey, maybe if you're interested in picking them up, you can go after those books. Let's check these out. All right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So if you haven't been following my channel, one of the things that I have been tracking for the last few months, ever since we really had the giant size X-Men 199 pop up, and then that 10-0 Wolverine #1 pop up, I started tracking the 9/9s that have been showing up on the census, and specifically focusing a little bit more on the vintage books. So I was looking at books from Spawn 1 and earlier. And I've identified a number of 9/9s over the last few months that have come onto the census. And there have been some pretty cool books, some pretty big books, some unique ones. And one of my points that I've been making with this is that if there are more 9/9s now coming onto the census, for whatever reason it is, if it's, I know some people think grading standards have changed, even though I don't really think that's what it is. I think it's more that they're looking for them more now, which isn't necessarily better because it means they should have been looking for them before. But for whatever reason, if there are more 9/9s and 10s that are coming up on the census, my stance was that those books are going to pop up for sale pretty quick after they get graded. And then the impact there is that these books that maybe there were only a few 9/9s, now if we start to have more show up, they're going to sell one after another after another. And that can drive down the values in those books. And like I mentioned in the intro, I was checking out a couple of the big auctions that are coming up in the next month or so. And 3 of the 9/9s that I identified in my videos are already coming up for sale. So that is my point exactly. Now let's check out those books. Then there's one other 9/9 that's coming up that I want to talk a little bit about as well, because I don't know. I don't like the look of it. But let's start with this upcoming big Heritage auction. So Heritage has this huge auction that's coming up in September. Tons of crazy books. I mean, you can see here we've got a All-Star #8, First Wonder Woman, and 9/0 Amazing Fantasy 15. I think there's a 9/6 Fantastic Four #1. Yep, right here. 9/6 Fantastic Four #1. Among all these other ridiculous books, Showcase 4 9/0, Superman 2 8/0, all kinds of stuff. But one of the books that's in here, if we search for 9.9, you will see Marvel Comics Super Special #1. This is that famous Kiss issue where their blood is in the ink for this book. And this was one of the books that I saw, that I talked about in one of my videos that I saw pop up, because this is a one of one. There is only one 9.9 on census right now. So if we jump over to that 9.9, you can see here 1 in 9/9, 0 in higher grades, top population, or top of the population. So 51 9/8, 199, all this kind of stuff out of 1,000 books. And then one of these funny things, there's grader's notes on this 9.9. 1 small stress line, mid spine, front cover, very small wear, bottom of spine, very small wear, top of spine. So if we go over and check this book out, I mean, that's one of the things that I saw when I was looking at it. And so, I mean, just because of those flaws alone, I would have thought this wouldn't be a 9/9. Now, granted, this is magazine size. They tend to grade a little softer on magazines, but still, I mean, That is definitely, I mean, it's just in the greatest notes. That is a soft corner there on the top. I'm never going to find the spine tick that's on this thing. I don't think in this picture. It's going to be one of those things you probably have to look at in the right light. And then, but this soft corner on the bottom. And like normally what I think of with 9.9s is they don't have that type of flaw, or at least maybe they only have one of them. But having two soft corners and a spine tick, like, I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a 9.9 to me. But that is besides the point. This is a 9.9 in the slab, like, or on the slab. And so it's going to sell for a 9.9 price. That's just the way it works. And so the question is, what is this book going to sell for? I mean, a 9.8 recently sold for 4,635, but that was very high. I mean, look at this. Like, this book had been, I mean, in 2021, 1,500, this was probably like a comic boom price maybe, but 2,500, but like $1,200 to $1,500. Then even earlier this year had a $2,200 sale. So I don't know where this $4,600 sale came from just in August, but maybe somebody was impatient. They wanted a copy, whatever it is. But I think the multiple for this book is going to come more off of the other sales, not that $4,000 sale. That $4,000 sale is such a huge outlier. I mean, just look at that. And so this isn't the type of book that I expect to get like a 20x multiplier. I don't see this as a $40,000 comic. I think this is going to be a smaller multiplier. I don't know, like 5 to 10x, something in that range. Will it go for 20? 20 is a lot for this book. I was kind of joking that even Doom is a little disappointed in those corners on that, but yeah, I mean, 20 feels like a lot to me. I don't know. I wouldn't be interested in it at 20. Like if I was looking at it from the perspective of 9.9s, like I'm not a 9.9 buyer, but I wouldn't be interested in that book at 20. But it's hard to say, like, if you want to have the single highest graded copy, whether you think it's a 9.9 or not. The single highest graded copy, that always counts for something, no matter what you feel about it. I don't know. I think it'll go over 10. I think it'll go over 10, but I maybe even get to 15, but I don't see it hitting 20. Well, we'll see. But we only have to wait. What is it, like 21 days, something like that, and we'll find out what this one sells for. But that was the first one. So that was the first one that I had seen. Now the next two were from the Comic Link auction that's coming up. So Comic Link has a very big auction that is also coming up that ends a little sooner. It starts closing out next week, I believe. And so one of the books, Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars #8. This one has a ton of copies on census. There is no shortage of them in 9.9s, 24 9.9s, and I would not be shocked if that number continues to grow. But you can see here, graded 7/11/2024. This one was very recently graded. One of the books that I called out when I was monitoring these, the grading, these books getting identified on the census, and immediately comes up for sale. I mean, we're a month later, in this book, and technically this one probably popped up less than a month. It was almost immediately up on Comic Link. And so a month later, and we've got this one up there. It's already sitting at $2,600. This one sells a little more regularly. So Marvel Secret #8. And so we'll have some sales here for this book. I know some of the recent sales are on Comic Link, so they won't get pulled in here. But we can still take a look at what this book is sold for. And so we've got a 9.9 in April that sold for 10,000. I think a 9.9 sold for around 7. I think it was on Comic Link, and it was like maybe between 7 and 8, somewhere in that range. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this one continues to trend down. I mean, look at that. Like, this book in 2018 was $2,000, $2,300. Big jump in 2019. And then this massive jump during the comic boom. I don't see it getting back down to like $2,000, but I think somewhere around 5 to 7 is maybe where this book goes. And it could just continue to drop. It all just depends how many pop up on census and how many keep coming up for sale. Because if they come up for sale, or if they get graded and come up for sale immediately afterwards, over and over and over again, that just overwhelms demand. Like, there's only so many people out there that really are willing to pay this kind of money for a 9.9. when, you know, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see again what this one ends up going for. I mean, like, you look at this book, like, this is more what I expect from 9.9 corners, like super sharp corners, super sharp corners. Like, this is the type. Let's see, does this one have graders notes? No graders notes on this one. But this is what I expect to see, like, not those like rounded corners that are on that Marvel Comics Super Special #1. But this is normally what I expect to see. I know it's not ideal that it has a spine, like a miswrap either, because you don't really, I feel like you don't want to see that when you've got your 9.9, you don't really want to see that miswrap on there, but it's got, the little miswrap as well. And yeah, so we'll see what that one ends up going for. Now, the last one that I had identified, and then we're going to talk about one other 9.9 that's coming up for sale, is the XMen number 221 9.9. This is another one that I think it was actually the thumbnail. I put a whole bunch of these on the background for that thumbnail because this is a pretty rare 9.9. Like you can see here, it's only 1 of 4. So this increased the numbers from 3 to 4. And you can see this is the one that was just graded June 19th, 2024. And so these books, like, they're getting graded and they're getting sold right away. And part of it is probably one, it's, if you get that, it's a big win. Like, you're going to be able to sell it for a lot more than a 9.8. But also, I would not be surprised if other people have similar concerns, that if they are getting these 9.9s, that they're just like, oh man, the values might just keep dropping if they're coming up for sale. I better sell this thing quick. Now, this one, I don't even remember if a 9.9 has ever sold before for this book. So let's check that out. And this is the first appearance of Mr. Sinister, if you're not aware. That's what makes that book important. And so, yeah, okay, 9.9 has sold once. In 2019, actually sold a few times. So 2019 sold for $5,400, 2014 $750, 2009 $418. Like, definitely didn't have nearly as much value in the 9.9s before. And that's the interesting thing, is the demand for 9.9s, despite all of this, does seem to generally be increasing, especially for vintage books. And so if we look at the 9.8 back in 2019 was going for $175, 200, 175, something like that. And so here, this is like 3 times or 30 times that much. So it's going for a 30x multiple back in 2019, which is pretty crazy. And so right now, this book in 2024 is pretty much back around there. I mean, look at this, like 175, 200, maybe 225. I'd say it's closer to 200 now. I wouldn't be shocked if this book sold for $6,000. I mean, that would not surprise me. I would really not be surprised if that 30x multiple stayed true, being a 1 of 4. I mean, let's take a look at this one, because that's one of the interesting things here is we actually get to see the book now. It's got a little bit of a miswrap. You can see how it's kind of like got that little twist to it. But let's zoom in on this guy a little bit. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Super sharp corners, super sharp corner. See nothing. I don't see anything jumping out on the spine. This looks like where the staple is. Super sharp, super sharp. See, were there any graders notes? No graders notes. So yeah, I mean, this is generally what I expect to see in a 9.9. I mean, this really is a beautiful book, whether you agree with it or not on, if 9.9 should even exist. I mean, that's one of those things that's always to me, that's the important conversation, is if you sent this book in 10 times, is it going to get a 9.9, 10 of them, 5 of them, no other times? That's the issue when you start getting up into those super high grade books, the 9.9s and the 10s, is how repeatable is the grade when you send it back in. That's, to me, that's like the big sticking point with it. I don't think too much about it with respect to the value side of things. I think it's more about what's repeatable, because when it comes to value, I don't really have anything against CGC for that. I mean, I know that they charge based on percentage of value. So that's where you can have a little bit of potential conflict of interest. But generally on the public side, when people are buying them, that's just whatever people are going to pay for it. Like, some people they want to buy the 9.9, they want to have that best copy that's out there. They want to buy if it was 9.8, it would be a 9.8, whatever. But yeah, it's a good looking book. No, it just has that little bit of a twist on the spine there. But yeah, this one wouldn't surprise me if it gets $6,000, 5 to 6,000. But we'll see. I don't know. It's hard to say what how the moods are changing on 9.9s right now. All right, now the last book that I wanted to talk about is this Transformers #1 in a 9.9. This one's also coming up on Comic Link. It's already at $2,600. It's got another week to go, so I'm sure it's going to go a lot higher than that. It's 1 of 4 again. And let's check out Transformers #1, because this is an expensive book already in a 9.8. I mean, 9.8's probably $1,200 to $1,500 right now. I haven't really looked at prices on that book for a while, but I would guess somewhere in the $1,200 to $1,500 range. Yeah. All right. 1,220 was the last sale. Low this year, 1,000. I'd say so. It's probably more like 1,100 right now, somewhere around 1,100 in that range. But during the comic boom, I think it got up to over 2. Yeah, 3,200 in the comic boom. But $1,000 book in a 9.8. Right now in that 9.9, it's already at 2,600. And like I said, I'm sure it's going to get more bids. This one was not graded very recently, like in the last 6 months, like when I've been monitoring this stuff. This one was graded in 2021. So 3 years ago now. Now, my issue with this one is that I thought, and I could be misremembering, but I thought that when Matt Nelson was talking about 9.9s and 10s, he had said that they weren't allowed to have those manufacturing defects. Like there are manufacturing defects that appear on certain books that are the reason, he said, is the reason why many of them will never get 9.9s. And so like Hulk 181, I think he said there's like an ink smudge somewhere on there. And so that usually is what keeps it from ever getting a 9.9, even if it's a super nice 9.8. This book is also known for a manufacturing defect, and it's on the top edge. Typically, I think it's normally the back cover. I don't know if it's on the front cover sometimes as well. But this one, you can see here, you can actually see it from the front. And so you go down to the back here, you zoom in, and you can see like this top edge here is got these little like wavy chips kind of all along the top edge. And so I brought up another book just to show you that, I mean, this is a thing that happens on this book. Got Transformers #1. This one sold back in May of this year. And we've got a 9.8. And when we zoom in on this one, I mean, you can really see it here. Like this is very similar to the right edge on Amazing Spider-Man 300. The right edge on Amazing Spider-Man 300 has a very similar thing that happens a lot with it, where you get these really bad cuts where there's just all chipped like this. And you can get 9.8s with that. Like I've seen 9.8s with that on Amazing Spider-Man 300. So I'm not shocked that there are 9.8s of this with Transformers #1. What I don't expect to see is that with a 9.9. And so that's just, just pointing it out that I feel like this one, this is what I know it frustrates people. It's like the inconsistency that you get, and you especially have it in these like super high grades like this. And so to me, this is one of those inconsistencies that I don't think this should have been a 9.9. Like to me, it has that manufacturing defect that sure, it's a 9.8, or some people might not even like that, but we'll say it's a 9.8. But I thought that's supposed to hold this book back from getting a 9.9, but hey, never know. I'm not the grader, but I just look at a lot of comics, and that is how I feel about it. So let me know. Are you planning on bidding on any of these 9.9s? Are you planning on participating in any of these auctions? I mean, there are, regardless of this, like there are some pretty incredible books that are in this auction and the Comic Link auction. I think there's a Comic Connect auction coming up too that has some pretty big stuff in it. So there's always fun stuff coming up for sale. Always fun to see what that is. I'm sure I'll make some focused video on the Heritage auction talking about that 9.6 Fantastic Four #1. It'll be crazy to see what that book sells for, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.